Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Breaking Butterfly podcast. I am so grateful to have you guys here. Today's episode is a super fun one. I'm meeting with someone that I met in Costa Rica pretty much exactly 1 year ago. Well, no,
hmm
a little over a year ago. And I'm super excited to connect more and catch up and for you guys to get to know Bree and her genius. She is just such a cool fucking person. So, Auntie Bree is a spiritual guide, and she's also a past life regression hypnotherapist. And I'm so excited to get into this because I know nothing. I know nothing about past life regression, and I know a little bit about the akashic. Um, and we're gonna get into it today. I have all the questions. It's gonna be fun because I am beginner, and I think a lot of people don't know what this is, so we can really get into I think I'll have some fun questions for you.
Yes, please ask
But
me
yeah,
all of them.
I will ask you all the questions. But yeah, say hello and maybe give everyone a little bit more about you, hobbies, where you're located, what you're into, and then after that we'll get into your story a little bit.
Okay, hello guys. I'm Auntie Bree. I'm located in Central Illinois. I've been practicing spiritual practices for my entire life. I feel like I've been like this forever. I'm certified in hypnosis, inner child healing. I'm trauma informed. I have a business called The Ethereal Realm where I do a bunch of consulting, different forms of healing modalities. I like to do spiritual retreats once a year to attune back into myself, learn more about myself. And past life regression is one of my biggest passions. And I'm so excited to share my knowledge, spark some interest in you guys, and to teach you about what I've learned on this journey.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, so me and Brie, we met at a content creator retreat in the jungle in Costa Rica a year ago. That's hosted by my co-host now, Bianca, which everyone should know by this point. So yeah, we went on Bianca's retreat together, and yeah, it was so cool to see what Brie like does and did during the retreat. But I still was just so intrigued. I just feel like there's more for me to learn in this
Mhm.
area. So yeah, I'm excited. I guess where I want to start is you said that you've always been like this. You've
Mhm.
always been spiritual or had these gifts. What was your upbringing actually like?
So I actually grew up in a household that was based in Christianity. It was never the main basis of my household, but that was the general beliefs of everybody. I've been in church a couple of years of my life and it just never felt right. I knew that there was something missing. It just never aligned with what felt right in my heart. Literally from as early as I can remember, I was always connected to wanting to know more. I knew that there was something bigger than me, that life was not just this one lifetime, but I didn't have the words to explain what I felt like I knew. I've always been into yoga. I remember being 9 years old on the internet and watching videos about pranayama and different vinyasas and learning about light language and different alien species and past life regression and reincarnation. And it's just always been something that I've been drawn to, and then I step back from it because of fear and confusion, and then it pulls me back in, and I'm finally in this space now where I can honor it in my daily life, and it feels so much more authentic than how I used to feel like I had to live.
Yeah, totally. I feel like that's such a crazy thing to be a child and have those really intuitive feelings, because I think a lot of people, even if they don't align with religion, they still are just I don't know what I align with. I remember getting out of religion, even though this was when I was much older, and I was just I'm atheist. I believe in nothing. It kind of turned me off from anything that was not in this plane. And so it's so interesting to hear that from a young age you were just nope, there are 100% aliens. We've had past lives. Even if you didn't have the complete words for it yet, you just were already in that world.
Mhm.
Um, what was the fear that came up for you that made you step away from it?
I was afraid of being weird.
Mm,
Light language was something that I've really been interested in since a young age. When I learned about it, I was it felt when I would hear light language, it felt soothing to my throat. And I didn't understand, like, I was like, that's weird. If I tried to talk to somebody about that, kids my age or even my family, they'd be like, girl, you are speaking in tongues. This is like devil language. Like, you need to stop. You need to cleanse yourself, go get baptized. So they would instill their own fear. I don't even think it was my fear. I think it was somebody else's fear of, oh my God, what if I don't fit in? What if somebody thinks I'm weird? If I talk about aliens and I have all this knowledge of all these different alien species and I try to tell somebody about like the grays, they're going to think I'm crazy. So I would learn all this stuff in my free time in my bedroom with the door shut and the volume turned all the way, like basically down. And then I would go to school and I would just be like, yeah, guys, I like prayed to God 7 times last night, you know, totally. I went to church and I like read my Bible, and inside I was like, no, this is incorrect. I'm living a lie. But I
Yeah.
found out it was other people's projections onto me.
Yeah. Do you feel like that impacted your confidence at all, like, or your mental health or anything?
Yeah, still to this day, I struggle with confidence. Like, there are moments where I know I'm an extreme channel, I'm entirely connected to who I am. And there are moments when I'm even like working with clients where that fear comes back up. And I'm like, what if I'm making this all up? What if this is just like, what if I am influencing people's answers? But I now know through experience that those, again, are projections of other people's fear. And I have to reground myself and remind myself that like I wouldn't have had such amazing impacts on the clients that I've worked with if this was fake. And
Yeah.
at the core of it all, my confidence truly comes from, even if this isn't true, even if I have this whole idea set out to believe, and then I die one day and I find out that everything I believed was wrong. It still helped people and it still gave me a sense of faith and connection to something bigger than me. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
I love that you say that because I always say, like, I choose to believe this
Mhm.
because I'm not like, I do believe it, but it's not even that. I choose to believe it because it makes me feel so good. And like, even if it's not true, or maybe even if there is like a little bit of a doubt behind like some of my beliefs or some of the things, like, I don't know 100% that's what's happening. I still choose to believe it because it benefits my life. So I love that. But the reason I asked about the confidence is because I feel like what you're saying is so similar to the journey that I always share. Like if I go on someone else's podcast, I always share like, kind of my, I don't know, like my plot, like my plot growing up that like got me here was being in the Mormon church and then like starting to find myself and having to literally hide it, where like it's just so funny. Like I would take changes of clothes in my car for like where I was going to go. So if I could wear like what truly made me feel authentic, and it was usually like a little crop top and like mini skirt or whatever, like it wasn't even like me trying to rebel. It just felt so me. I felt cute. I felt so good. Like it just was natural to me. So I'd like wear that. And then I'd be going to my boyfriend's house and his dad was the bishop. So then I'd put on like my modest clothes. I would flip up my septum ring. I would like fix my hair. You know what I mean? I was like being different people
Mhm.
to fit into that community. And I do think it affects your confidence so much. And it's crazy how it'll like affect you even this far down the road of feeling like, am I the odd one out? Like, does everyone know what they're doing except for me? Or yeah, you just like doubt yourself. Um, and yeah, it's just like a very similar experience.
Mhm.
It's weird having to like hide parts of yourself and then growing up, finding your authentic self, and then yeah, those like little pockets and moments where you like question. It almost doesn't even feel like you, right?
Yes. I really think that a lot of my insecurities come from like that inner child who had been told over and over again, you need to go read the Bible. You need to go to church. Oh, if you're going to be our friend, like if you're going to stay here with us on Saturdays, you have to go to church with us on Sundays. And that's just how it was. And like being, like you said, kind of fitting these roles that people have
Mhm.
assigned to you instead of creating your own role. And that's kind of where I
Yeah.
am now, finding my own definition of who I am.
Yeah. And it's probably really easy now since you have a family, like a soul family that you've met on these retreats. It's like into the exact same things. Did you feel like going on these retreats that it was almost a little bit shocking how similar people are to you? Like, were you like, holy shit, We were talking a little bit
Yes.
before we started this recording where you're kind of like, "Oh my god, this exists." Like, that's crazy.
Yes, like, so I have gone on the retreat twice. In the first retreat, I met all these people who were, it felt like, at the time, it felt like everybody there was ahead of me. Everybody had a better sense of identity than I did. So seeing people stand in their power and like talk about the Galactic Federation and talk about alien species and do light language really affirmed to me, but most importantly, my inner child, that like the stuff that I've been drawn to, the stuff that felt aligned with me, is things that people can stand in power with. And being around people like that, because I don't have a lot of people like that where I live. I live in like the middle of Illinois. Nobody's like that here. And it just really did affirm to me that like even if you're weird at the moment where you are, there is a group of people, there are people in the world that completely understand what you're experiencing, and you're never alone in your beliefs and your experiences. And then I went on this retreat again, and we were like affecting the electricity in the entire resort center. And it was just a second confirmation that like life is so much more magical than you can ever even imagine.
Yeah. I really think environment is everything. I feel like this message has been coming up so much, actually kind of forever, but I've been talking about it a lot just like recently. Just the environment of like, yeah, you're not weird, you're just like in the wrong place. Or like, I'll never forget this girl on our retreat. She was like, I'm honestly realizing I don't have social anxiety. I've just been hanging out with the wrong people, and those people make me anxious. We were just talking about before we started recording. Oh, actually, by the time this episode comes out, this other episode will be out with Callie. We're talking about like even mold poisoning and being in like a house or living with a family member or something that like just it affects you, maybe even down to your physical health, or even just it brings like negative things out of you. And I think so many people keep trying to fix what's happening instead of like it's the quote about the flower, and it's like if a flower isn't growing, do you blame the flower or do you blame the environment? Like, does it
Yeah.
have enough soil? Is it getting watered? Does it have sunshine? And some people have no sunshine, no water. Someone's literally throwing dirt on them, and then they're trying to fix themselves, and they're like, what's wrong with me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to fix what's happening instead of looking at, am I even being nourished? Am I even in the right place to be able to thrive? Because a lot of people are just not even in an environment where they can thrive, and then they're mad at themselves that they're not thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
We
no
don't
sense.
realize it. So there's another quote, and this was like something that kept being brought up when I was in Costa Rica, and it was like, excuse my language, but if you sit in shit long enough, it doesn't stink anymore, and you don't even know that it's there. So like when you're in a situation that really sucks for so long that it becomes your normal, you don't even realize anymore that it sucks until you
Yeah.
step outside of it, you change your routine, and then you can look at it from a new perspective and be like, "Oh, the people that I'm with, they don't actually really like me. The job that I have doesn't support me. The place that I live doesn't give me experiences." And that's why like traveling, surrounding yourself with like-minded people is so important.
Yeah. It's everything. It's life-changing for sure. Oh my god, sorry guys. My cat is attacking me. I don't know what has gotten into her, but hey, she's like biting me. Um, yeah, I love all of that. Okay, I think this is a sign of my cat attacking me to shift the conversation. Let's talk about past life regressions.
Mhm.
And I want you to give me like past life regressions for dummies.
Okay.
What is it? What is like let's start with what is it?
Okay. My favorite thing to do is combine science and spirituality because I believe that spirituality is science unexplained. So, the scientific explanation behind past life regression is when you go through hypnosis. Hypnosis puts your brain in a state where it is creating these brain waves that allow you to access your subconscious mind. So we have like different layers of our brain. We have our consciousness, which is where we're always operating, our subconscious, which is like taking in information all the time. We have our unconscious, and then there's a part of our brain that's like unlabeled. We haven't been able to study that part yet. So the subconscious mind is where we go during hypnosis, and like I said, it remembers everything. So in a very basic way to explain it, from the moment that you are born, but from the moment that your brain is developing and you have consciousness, your subconscious is like filing everything, every little moment, every interaction, every feeling, every outcome, every person that you've met. And it's sorting all of those into like filing cabinets. So if you extend that to past life regressions, because our consciousness is ever expansive, it's not just with this lifetime. If you believe and study reincarnation, so our subconscious not only files all the information from this lifetime, but it has the files of all of our experiences from our past lives. And that's actually the akashic records. And we can get into that a little later. But you go through grounding, you allow yourself to become hypnotized. It's all about what you allow yourself to experience because you're the director. I'm just the person with the words who knows how to get you there. And you allow your subconscious mind to finally kind of step forward, your conscious mind steps back, and you just ask yourself, really, like, where are these feelings truly coming from? And sometimes memories, sensations, feelings, emotions, thoughts, physical sensations will come up. And without second guessing yourself, because a lot of times that's what we do, and that kind of comes with like not trusting your intuition, but you get these feelings, you trust them, you speak on them, and it kind of like takes all these puzzle pieces from all these filing cabinets and puts them together and gives you the big picture of what's actually going on in your brain. And that's what past life regression is.
Oh, I think I didn't know what it was at all. This is so funny. Okay, I love
Yeah.
this. I love this so much. Um, do you hypnotize yourself or do you have to be hypnotized by someone else?
Um, really, I would say you can hypnotize yourself, but it comes with the guidance of somebody's script usually. So I have a
Yeah,
script that I read from, and it's kind of like a guided meditation. You're basically just getting your body and your mind really grounded, really, really relaxed. You let go of all of your doubts, all of your worries, your shame, your guilt, everything that could be holding you back from just being truly authentic and in the moment. And you just allow your brain to just show you what it's been trying to tell you for who knows how long. And you're really just sitting in the silence and the wonder of yourself, and you're going on this self-discovery journey. And you're just asking like, what do I need to know? So you can't put yourself there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because I don't know
yeah,
how deep you can really go without the guidance of somebody else, but it's possible.
that's true because you have to like think about guiding yourself or think about what you're gonna say next, and you want to just
Hmm.
like fully let go. That makes so much sense. So where does the past life part come in? Like, is it because when you're in that state, like past life things are like common? It's common for those to come up.
Yeah, so within the script specifically, I'll ask, like, okay, I want you to find a memory. This is how I do it at least. I want you to find a memory from your childhood from this current lifetime. It could be a happy one, could be sad. Maybe there's something that you need to let go of from this memory before we move backwards. But a childhood memory will come up. I'll ask a couple of questions about it. And then I'll be like, okay, are you ready to move backwards? You go to a younger memory, and eventually I take you to a memory from when you're in the womb, and that's a whole cool experience. And as you're doing this like mental age regression, once you're at that barrier between like in the womb to the in between and a life before, you can jump from that womb memory into the past life with guidance. So I'll say like, now that you've healed whatever you needed to from this lifetime in this exact moment, are you ready to move into your past life and learn what you need from that one? And if the answer is yes, I'll guide them there. Usually it's with a snap or just simple guidance from my words. And then we'll just ask questions. What are you seeing from this past life? How can you describe yourself? Where are you? How old are you? What are you feeling? And it's all just, I'm just asking a ton of questions, trying to figure out what their experience is.
Mm. That's so cool. I love that.
Mhm.
What is like the coolest experience you've had or had someone else have? Like, what is an actual example of what this might look like?
So I'll talk about two of them because these two have really like changed my perspective and solidified my confidence in past life regression. So one of the first past life regressions I've ever done was in person with one of my acquaintances in town. And she had came to me because she wanted to know why she kept living this pattern of getting into relationships and within a couple of months they would end because of some type of like tension between them. She wanted to know why there was always tension, what the pattern was. So we went through the whole regression of the childhood memories, the womb memories, and we got to the past life. And we found out that in a past life, she had a relationship with this person, or technically this soul. And there was a divide. And in this life, she had loved this person so much that she had vowed to herself and to like the universe, I'm going to live these lifetimes looking for this soul. And until I find this person, my relationships are not going to work. And that's a soul contract. So, soul contracts are a lot of things, or things that we tend to make on accident. And we don't really realize the power of our words when we say things like, I'm always going to look for you in every lifetime. Like, that can be a soul contract. So, she had one, and what I do when a soul contract comes up is I ask them, is this soul contract serving you in this lifetime? Or is this something that you would like to no longer be attached to? Because sometimes you're still learning lessons from it and it's benefiting you. And sometimes it's just kind of there waiting for you to like expel it back into the universe. And with this specific person, it was no longer serving her. But as soon as she said that, there was resistance. And the resistance was actually coming from her past self. So in past life regression, not only are you experiencing the regression, but you're also, you know how we have a higher self and we can communicate with our higher self? You're technically like the higher self version to that past version of yourself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So when she said this soul contract was no longer serving her, her past self met her with resistance and was like, you can't get rid of this because I want to be with this person. I want to be with this soul. I'm not ready to let go of this contract. So not only did I have to guide her in her current lifetime to let go of this soul contract, but I also had to communicate with her past self and guide her to let go of the soul contract because it was, if it's not serving your current lifetime, it's also not serving your past life and they might not realize it because they're living it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of like coaching to prioritize yourself. I've noticed that people who lack confidence in their decisions tend to have problems convincing or making a decision for themselves against what their past self wants. So I had to coach her on that. But eventually she was like, I need to make this decision for myself. I'm going to let go of the contract. And as soon as she did it, it was like it felt like the energy in the room had shifted like a full 180. And so we finished the regression with another lifetime memory. She went through the death of herself in that life. And I brought her out of the hypnosis and we have like an integration discussion. And she was like, I found out that I had convinced myself that I don't deserve better. And that's why I wanted that soul and that connection with that person because I thought that was the only thing that was available to me. And then I checked in with her like 3 months later. And I think still to this day, and this was like 2 years ago, she was in a relationship with this guy. And she was like, there's just something about this. There's no more tension. I feel free to express myself in this relationship. And I'm pretty sure still to this day, she's with that guy. And it's just so much easier for her because she doesn't have that contract that she's working against. And
Yeah.
then, so that really solidified that, like, okay, soul contracts, past life regressions, these are like real things that work. Like, contracts can really hold you back from expressing yourself authentically. And then the most beautiful experience I had was with another client about a year and a half after that previous session. And so after the death memory, I take them to experience what their soul looks like, how their soul expresses themselves. And usually people describe their soul as a color. Usually it's like floating above the body after they have died and it's making its way into the cosmos to the in between. But this soul expressed itself as like almost like a black hole, but on the outside of it was just a garden of flowers. And the garden was originally like dry and dead. And then she watched all of the grass and the flowers bloom because she had finally like poured into herself and nurtured herself and gave herself the ability to bloom into who she is. And that changed my whole perspective of souls and how our soul can be hurt too. And until we heal our soul, like it's going to affect our physical body and everything on the outside. It was crazy. She wrote about it in a book and everything.
Mm, oh my god. Wait, I love this. So, obviously the past life regression is to understand, the soul contracts and understand like where our soul is, damaged so that we can heal it. But
Mhm.
if you already know what it is, like you just know like, oh, I 100% have this soul contract, do you feel like going into the past life regression and working with the subconscious is the only way to heal it, or can you like does the healing go outside of the actual hypnosis and it's more just about, I don't know, just changing behavior, like doing other, like if someone walked out of a soul like a past life regression and was like, Bree, I'm ready to heal my soul, what would you tell them? Like what are their next steps?
Aligned action. I always tell people that past life regressions, most of the time, they don't ever tell you something that you didn't already know. It just gives you the context of where this belief came from. Um, and now that you are aware and have solidified to yourself, like, okay, I have a problem with my confidence, for example. Now that you know that and you've energetically opened yourself up to healing that, because you're not entirely expelling the energy, you're just opening yourself up to heal it. Now you have to go out in your life and make aligned actions. If confidence is what you're struggling with, for example, how are you going to be more confident? Are you going to start speaking up? Are you going to finally end those relationships with those people that are stealing your energy and making you feel like trash? Are you going to put yourself in opportunities that you felt like in the past maybe you didn't deserve? Are you going to push yourself? And you'll find that after a past life regression, it's not that it like makes you into this superhuman who now just can do whatever, but it gives you the ability to see how much you are worth and how you can make changes. So you put yourself in those positions that you might have talked yourself out of in the past.
Yeah, well, I feel like what's connecting for me is like you were talking about how we're basically a higher self to our past self.
Hmm.
And we do have the choice now to make the choices that we couldn't in that past life. So it is almost like a really empowering way to think about taking action. Now it's not just like, oh, I need to like change my behavior. Like, oh, yeah, I just need to change this relationship. It's like, no, I need to be like the higher self for my past self. And as I take this aligned action, I am healing
Hmm.
this past version of myself in a sense, right? There is like this connection between the two that I feel like taking the action in the present moment feels so much more empowered than just like, oh, I have to like change things. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's from this like higher self
It's
perspective.
quantum healing. So, like
Yeah.
in quantum physics, there's this theory of quantum entanglement, which is basically like two atoms anywhere on any plane have a connection. Where, if, like, say they're spinning, one's clockwise and one's counterclockwise. And if one switches from clockwise to counterclockwise, no matter what kind of communication or connection these atoms have, they're always going to affect each other. So, if one switches, the other is going to switch. And that's quantum healing. So past life regression is just a human mental and like physical version of quantum entanglement healing
You're like,
science.
I know you're like blowing my mind. I love this. A lot of this I know, like I do and like do my healings in my own way, but I don't have like the knowledge and the lingo and like the yeah, like the science behind it and everything. Like I don't even know what to ask next because I just feel like I'm getting mind blown. Let's talk. Okay, so when we were in Costa Rica,
Hmm.
you met this girl at the river, and immediately you just had
Yes.
like a past life of hers like come to you and like, can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, first I'm gonna expose myself. I fell in love with that girl. I saw her across the river, and I I have I don't think I ever felt like this before, but it was one of those feelings that like you hear mediums talk about where they're like, "Oh, I just have to go tell this person something." So I got that feeling, and I was like, first I was thinking she was like Costa Rican, probably didn't speak English, so how was I going to go up to this girl and be like, "Hey, I know what your past life is." So I just kind of pushed that in the back of my, that was that fear again, you know?
Yeah.
But the universe was like, "No, we're going to make this happen." So she came up to me and she was like, "There's just something about you. Like, I think you're so beautiful. Can I take a picture with you?" And I was like, "Whoa, please."
Absolutely, you can.
Yes. So we did that, and I thought that was the end of our interaction. And our group goes to like a deeper part of the waterfall, and she's still at the front part. And she ends up finding us again, and she comes up to me, and I was just like, "You know what? I'm just gonna do it." And I was like, "Girl, can I tell you like what's coming through for your past life?" I don't even know if she believes in past life. I don't know if she's spiritual. But I was like, I need to put myself in this uncomfortable
Okay.
position.
First of all, if I was just like in the jungle in Costa Rica and I saw this beautiful girl, so beautiful that I had to go take a picture with her, and then she came up to me and was like, I have like a message for you. I like that's the most magical, like to be her is just the craziest thing. She's like, yes.
Dude, it was magical for me too, because I was like, I had this calling to
Yeah.
go talk to this girl, and even though I didn't, she came and talked to me. So obviously I'm supposed to tell her this.
Yeah.
So I just channeled, basically the premise of her past life was that she has this very deep connection with caring for children. And I saw an image of like whenever she's aligned with either having kids, taking care of kids, being around kids, thinking about their futures, there's like I saw a key and it went into a heart and unlocked the heart and it just like opened into butterflies. And as soon as I said that, she started crying. And I was like, at first I thought I had messed up. I was like, "Ah, shit." But she was like, "You don't even know me and you have no idea like what working with kids mean to me. Like the fact that you said that is crazy." And we still talk to this day. We still talk.
I was
And
gonna ask if
she,
you're in contact with her.
not often, but she had messaged me like back in August and we hadn't talked for like months. And she just sent me this beautiful message about how like sometimes she thinks about our interaction and she still cries because it really reminds her like of her core of who she is. And when I went back to Costa Rica, I messaged her and I was like, "Girl, I'm back. I'm thinking of you. I hope you're doing good." And she was like, "I was literally just thinking of you last week."
Oh my
So
god.
that was, and that's the Akashic records. If maybe you want to start going into that.
I would love to talk about the Akashic records. So I actually have been getting my Akashic records read for like years
Mm.
because two of my best friends both read the records. So it kind of became like a common thing for me, and I really fell in love with it. I actually, this is so funny. My first Akashic record reading, it went immediately into a past life. Like the first thing that came up was a past life, and this is when I really like started to like believe in this shit. Like I always did, but like you were saying, there's those moments that really like instill your confidence. So I was like in this like reading, and I was like kind of just in a meditation. I was like keeping my eyes closed, and we were like diving into like this fear I had, and yeah, this like past life regression came up of me. It was like really scary of like me pretty much being an addict and like overdose, and I was like in the hospital and they were like pumping my stomach, and it was like this whole thing, and it was very traumatic. And as she's like telling me all of this and like kind of describing the scene, I just start like spinning. And that's not very common for me, but I'm like closing my eyes and I started like my heart started racing, I started feeling sick, and kind of like I was like spinning out, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And as soon as I like started spinning, she like stops and she's like, okay, they're telling me you need to breathe because this is not happening right now. And there was no way she could have known I was like having the physical sensation that I was. But immediately my guides came in and were like, girl, you need to chill. It's fine. We're showing you what happened, but it's not happening. And like,
Mhm.
it was just so crazy. Um, anyway, I'm like, I love going into my records
Mhm.
and I'm curious to hear you talk about it.
Yeah. So maybe for people who don't know what the Akashic Records is, I explain it as like past, present, and future stream of consciousness that's kind of visualized as like a giant library, usually. And it's books of everything that has happened, everything that could happen, will happen, is happening right now, guides and higher dimensional beings, as well as our consciousness, has access to this. And we can go in there and we can like rewrite things, we can make new books and start new things, and like anything that you can think of can be created there. And I learned from Dolores Cannon, who is a renowned regressionist, that some of and it, I talking about this is kind of tricky because it can upset people, but like some of the terrible things that happen exist because somebody went into the Akashic records and was just like, well, what happens if I want this to happen? And then it'll happen because the Akashic records in the spirit realm knows no good or bad. It just knows experience. So it allows experiences to exist no matter how us as humans in the 3D view those experiences.
Yeah. So someone could literally just, what do you mean by like they could just go up there and choose something to happen?
Um, okay, so from Dolores's book, I believe it's called In Between Life and Death. She talks about how somebody could go into the Akashic records, and it's not like just some random person can walk in there and be like, I want all these terrible things to happen to the world, and then the Akashic is like, yep. But like you can go in there and say the say consciousness, the universe, God, however you want to explain it, wants to experience what it would be like to live in a wheelchair and have adversities. You can go in there as consciousness and create like I call them experience files. I'm not sure if there's a more technical term for it. You can create this experience file. A soul will experience living in a wheelchair, and it will have adversities and this and this and this. And if it is beneficial to the experience of consciousness gaining more knowledge of the experience on earth, it will be created.
Mm. So how could I use the Akashic records to create, can you use the Akashic records to create more like abundance and positive experiences?
I like to
And
believe that manifestation is that exactly, actually. When you're living in a specific circumstance and you're like, I don't like the way this story is going, and you're manifesting and you're saying, I want to be, say, you want to be like a fashion designer, and you're manifesting this, and you're with your words and your intention and your aligned action, you're basically writing pages in your book to say, in my life, I get this opportunity to create this dress for this celebrity, and it blows up on Instagram and people start booking me. And you have scripting is actually a really good example of what it's like to go into the Akashic records and write what you want and make it happen.
oh, interesting.
Hmm.
I would
So
have
like
never
that's
considered
the
that.
human experience of it.
And then how do you access the records just by channeling?
Yes. So there's different ways to access it. You can access it if you're like a mentally visual kind of person and you can like see things, you can access it that way. Like when I've gone to the Akashic records, a lot of times for me it just comes through as information that I see and know. But some people have to go down these tunnels into a library where there's a book presented to them and they can open this book to this page and whatever they're looking for is on this page. So there's this his name is, hold on, I have it wrote Edgar Casey, and he's considered like the most documented psychic. And he's predicted so many things. Like from years and years ago, he predicted that like Barack Obama was going to be the president. I mean, he didn't write down like Barack Obama was going to be the president. He was the 44th president, I believe. He wrote down like the 44th president was going to be black. And it was
Mm,
true.
Mm.
So he got that information from the Akashic record. So for Edgar Casey, he would sit in meditation and he would fall asleep during meditation, but he would actually just be put in a deep trance. And while he's in this trance, he would be presented with this book. And he would just open the book, and there would just be information there that he needed to know. And he would memorize it, and he'd come back and he would be like, this is the information that the Akashic Records gave me. One day it's going to be necessary for people to know. So it just depends on how your consciousness gives you access to it.
I'm honestly so mad that I can't see visuals. Like I like can't. I I never have. Actually, there's a lot of like different ways that like people's brains work that like fascinates me because you're always just in your own brain, so you don't know how other people's works, and it really is such a completely different experience. We think like everyone's very similar to us, and in some ways we are all so similar, and in some ways we're so different. But I never knew that like people could actually see a picture in their mind. And yeah, it makes me frustrated because I'm very intuitive. Like I'm very much a channel, but I think I didn't know that for so long. Like I did know I was always channeling, but I didn't know how intuitive I actually was because I wasn't having these like visions. It is just like a knowing, or I'll like hear things. Um I wonder if I can like I've been trying to practice. Like I've been trying to like visualize, but I just can't. I don't know. It just makes me mad.
I used to not be able to. I know for some people, the way that their brain is wired, it's just never possible. But for
Yeah.
me, for a long time, I had blocked myself from my third eye, which is where you get those visions and those visuals. And once I worked on that, I healed that part of myself. I could see things. But I don't always see stuff either. A lot of times for
Yeah.
me, it's a knowing. And it's like I know these things so deeply that I can almost see them. It's like I know that I'm seeing them, even if I'm not actually seeing anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I bet, even though you don't see things, you probably get really intense body sensations. When you do meditations, do you feel it?
Sometimes.
See,
Sometimes.
I don't feel things.
I don't feel things a lot either. It's more like for me, things pop into my brain that like I know that it's not my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like downloads. Like I just and it's not even like I hear like an actual voice as if like I'm gonna look around and be like, who was that?
Right.
Like there is a voice that will just like give things to me essentially.
Hmm.
Or I'll like record a podcast or something and I'll like just speak about something and after I have no idea what I just said. Like no
Yeah.
clue. That kind of channeling. But I'll get some sensations, but not a lot either.
Interesting. Maybe you don't need to. You're
Yeah.
usually I when people explain like, "Oh, I don't have this experience." You've probably had it so many times in a past life or are going to experience it more in the future that you really don't need it now because what you're needing now is exactly what you're experiencing.
Yeah. I just had this reading actually with this guy. It's like Bianca's guy that she goes to. And that was immediately, we hadn't even spoken. And he just like connected to my guides. And he's like, okay, the first thing they want to say to you is like, it's actually such a gift how grounded you are. And they're proud of like how well you work in this human realm. And I think that's part of it. Like, I'm just very grounded, even though I like can channel and I'm very connected to source. I just am like, not an alien. Remember when Cassius was like, "You're not an alien, you're a fairy."
Mhm.
That's what he said to me. I was like, "That
Yeah.
makes."
And it's crazy that you mentioned that because I learned from mushrooms actually that I spend so much of my time up here that when I took mushrooms with everybody,
Oh, yeah, I
I
remember
didn't
you.
have any experiences and everybody met me at my level. So everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." And I was like, "Guys, I experience this every day." But when I did rapé, I had
Mm,
grounded into myself, honestly, probably for the first time ever in my entire life. And I felt what it felt like to be in my body as a human. And that was the craziest sensation because I'm not very grounded in the human, in the now. I mean, I'm in the now, but like in the now in the astral realm.
Oh my god, that's so funny because when I work with rapé, it's like it's pretty mild for me, and with mushrooms, even if I take, like, 0.2 grams, I'm, like, almost not okay. You're the opposites.
Yeah, because I ended up taking, I think, over a gram of mushrooms throughout the day. And I was not once did I think, oh my God, I'm tripping. It was just more like, I feel like myself. And then
Yeah.
when I did rapé, I felt I was talking to, I don't remember who it was, but they were sitting next to me and they were watching me get the second dose. And they explained to me, they watched my body go from like normal sitting position to like slumped because the weight of my soul like downloading into my body was so new to me that like my body was like physically reacting to it because of how heavy it was.
Wow. That's
Hmm.
crazy, and that's what I'm talking about, how sometimes we're so different.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What Tell me another Costa Rica experience from this last retreat. You guys, after this retreat, I obviously like FaceTimed Bianca and them just to like get the catch up, and everyone's energy was different, and they just looked at me and they were like, "Maddie, like this was the craziest retreat yet." It gave me like a little bit of FOMO. I was kind of sad. No, I was like so excited because I wasn't sure like what the vibe was gonna be, and then to like open FaceTime and just have all of you be like, that just happened. Like that shit was
Girl.
crazy. But I want to hear like a specific experience from you.
Sure. So I'll give you two. One, so I'm also a Reiki healer, and there was a guy there. His name is IK, and he joined like the day of the retreat or like the day before. And he came in and he was talking to us about how he experiences these jolts of energy, but it's not like it's like his body will twitch, but it's not a twitch, it's just energy moving through his body. And if he were to hold like somebody's hand, the energy will move through him into them and they will jolt with it. So I was like, "Oh, that sounds like you're tapping into source energy and you just don't know how to use it. So you need to probably practice Reiki or work on channeling light language because you have the energy, just don't know where to put it."
Mm,
So me and Brittany Bento, who is on TikTok, we're working with him separately to channel energy, and we were at the ecstatic dance party, and he had a couple of days to practice. He was working with us, and he came up to Brittany and I and he was like, let's make an energy ball, because that's what we were teaching him. So we were playing with that. We had rubbed our hands together, made the energy, and you could feel the static from the energy. And we were like pushing it towards each other. And he was like, okay, make it really big. So we like grew it out. And he was like, you know what? Let's like condense it really, really small. So we pushed it in until our hands touched. And literally, as soon as our hands touched, all of the lights in the entire retreat center went out except for the power at the DJ booth that was connected to the same source that the lights were connected to. And it wasn't just like a quick flicker, they were like off and then they turned back on. And we just stood there and we were like, you're not supposed to talk during the ecstatic dance. But we were like, there's no fucking way we just did that. Like that had to have been us.
yeah.
And it wasn't just the lights by the yoga shala. So Gwen was in the bathrooms, like all the way by the kitchen, which is pretty far from where the yoga
Yeah.
shala is. The lights even up there in the bathroom turned off. So that's like the whole Hogwarts thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sorry, my friend just got here. And then the second experience, so it was the day we did mushrooms, and I was like trying to figure out why I wasn't tripping or having any experiences. And we had a sound healing journey. And I was so excited because I was like, okay, if I'm on mushrooms, like I'm gonna astral project. But while I'm there, I'm so conscious. Like I'm there. And I'm kind of getting frustrated because I'm like, Gwen's over there and she's like experiencing, you can hear the amazing time that she's having. And everybody is just like crying or laughing. And I'm like, why am I not getting this experience? And next thing I know, my hands start shaking literally at not human speeds. I can't even replicate it if I tried. And they both of them were going crazy. And I just got this message, and it was from the Pleiadians, and they were like, "We're tuning you so we can use you to channel energy surgery for people." And I was like, I don't know what that means. And my hands were moving, and they placed it over my heart, and they were like, "You have a lot of stuff in your heart that we need to remove." So I would bend my finger like this, and it would just go insane. And I could feel like, it felt like toxins were being pulled out of my body. And they were like, "You've needed this so bad. You've needed to allow us to use you, and you were afraid. And now that
Mm.
you're okay with us, we can finally do what we've been waiting to teach you." And my hands were going crazy for like 30 minutes after the sound journey. And I found out, like, after I really sat with myself, that the next step for me from Reiki is doing energy surgery on people. And there was a girl there named Kendra. She's been doing energy surgery for like 10 years. So, and I didn't know that. So I was able to have a conversation with her about it, how the process works, how you're supposed to remove energy and then replace it with golden white light, so you don't just leave them with all these holes in their auric field. And it really solidified again to me that like life is so much more magic than I would ever expect. And those,
Yeah.
I think, were those are the top two experiences I had.
Yeah. I love that. It is magic. And it's sad that it's not more normalized because so many people have gifts and powers, but because it's not normalized or we have fear or we want to fit in, right? We really like push those down. But this is the kind of shit that happens when you embrace it and you're like, this is who the fuck I am. And like you were saying, the Pleiadians just being like, there's no fear. So you can actually like now tap in more and do this and do this and do that. And like, who knows where you're going to go now once you like fully embody it. And I think even outside of, these more 5D gifts, if you will, like even outside of that, just other people have gifts, maybe just even in their career or in a sport or something. And they're not able to tap into that because they have like the fear, they don't want to fit in. And what if they just fully claimed it and we're like, this is who the fuck I am? They're probably going to experience magic. They're probably going to manifest
Mhm.
something fucking crazy, like an energy ball turning all the lights off, but maybe in more like grounded terms, they're going to experience that magic, but they're just not, yeah, because they
They're
haven't
not
fully owned
aligned.
it. Mhm.
I came to that conclusion the other day. This is a funny story. I was with my friend Erin, who actually just got here, and we were watching random videos on YouTube. And we came across this video of these guys playing glass bottles and a wooden flute in water. And it sounds stupid, but this man was going crazy. It was insane how good the music was. And it really like proved to me that when you find the thing that you're supposed to do, no matter how conventional it is or if it makes sense to anybody else, once you're aligned with that, it doesn't matter how stupid it might seem to anybody else. Because if you're aligned, it's going to work out for you. And as long as you are authentic and listen to yourself, like you said, they're going to experience magic in whatever term that means.
For someone that's in that place where they aren't experiencing the magic, if you could just say like one thing to them right now, or maybe give them one little like homework, like what would you tell them to do?
Listen to yourself, even if it hurts. When I went to Costa Rica, the week before I had quit my job, I had like $100 in my bank account, and I was behind on bills. And while I was there, I kept getting this message every single day. I needed to stay longer. I was going to figure it out. It wasn't going to make sense to anybody. I was going to tell people, and they were going to tell me that I was crazy, and they were going to project their fears on me, but I had to stay there, even if it didn't make sense. And it hurt to make that decision, but I decided to stay. And what it showed me is that even when life doesn't make sense, and I want, if anybody takes anything out of this entire conversation, I want it to be this: no matter how bad life hurts, there's always going to be something better waiting for you on the other side. You have to be open to getting through the discomfort first to be able to see it and appreciate the beauty that's waiting for you. But it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. If your soul, if that little small whisper inside of you is saying to do it, and it goes against everything that society has ever taught you, chances are that's the right decision. And it's going to show you your strength, your capabilities, your worth, your magic. And it doesn't have to be approved by anybody else on this world but yourself.
Mm, I love that so much. Mic drop.
Mm.
Mic drop. Yeah, what a beautiful way to end this off and also like relate this whole conversation to authenticity, which is like, yeah, just such a huge part of this podcast and my brand and talking about confidence. It is the authenticity and not giving a fuck what other people think. And yeah, it's beautiful how that like that lesson intertwines in so many different ways
Hmm.
and in so many different lessons and lifestyles. It's like you just be yourself. Like that really is
That's
sometimes
it.
all it takes. Like that's it. It's just like be yourself and love who you are while being yourself, but be
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I think it's important to be yourself even when you don't really like yourself also.
That's actually
So,
when it's most important.
yeah. Yeah, totally.
Hmm.
That's so true. Okay, we could get into like a whole other
Yeah.
that could lead into something completely different. And that actually kind of gave me like a aha moment for myself. So, thank you for that.
Hmm.
Can you tell everyone where they can find you? And also, I'm curious about your offerings. Like, what do you actually offer if someone wanted to do this work with you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media as Auntie Bree. It's AUNTIEBREE, and I believe there's an underscore at the end on Instagram and on TikTok. You can find me there. The services that I offer, I have two different types of past life regression. I have channeled messages, so you can get on a call with me. You can ask me up to 10 questions, and I will channel for you, and it'll usually take up to an hour, hour and a half. I do long distance energy healing, tarot reading, and inner child healing. So that's all on my website, which is etrrealm, REALM.com.
Amazing. And I'll have you send me that link too, and then I'll put it in the show notes. So,
Sure.
yeah, I'm sure my audience is just going to like fall in love with you. So, I hope they come and work with you and experience more of your magic. And yeah, I'm very grateful to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my knowledge because I'm a channel, so I can teach the words of the universe to others.
Yeah, I was just thinking like a moment ago, and I wasn't going to say it, but I feel like you need to have a podcast. Have you
I
thought about
do.
having one? Yeah.
Yes, I just ordered microphones for it yesterday, actually.
Oh,
So,
that's hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, I literally just had that thought. I was like, you have to do a podcast.
Mhm.
Um, I think everyone's moving to podcasts, and I'm like here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it. Um, yeah, I'll leave all the links in the show notes. Thank you. Thank you. And everyone listening, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Hi, guys.